Does the New York State Tax Appeals Tribunal have to give deference to an IRS's finding as to whether a person is willfully withholding taxes? To find out, you have to read Black versus New York State Tax Appeals Tribunal, but it's 34 pages. Don't have time for that? I've got you covered. This is TLDR, Too Long Didn't Read, where I cover New York Court of Appeals cases, and I try to do it in 5 minutes or less. This is the episode on the case of Black versus New York State Tax Appeals Tribunal. The citation for this case is 2023 New York Slip Opinion 05961, published by the New York Court of Appeals on November 20th of 2023. The issue in this case is whether the Tax Appeals Tribunal has to give deference to the IRS's federal evaluation of whether the respondent owes taxes or is responsible for failing to pay taxes personally. To appreciate the context of this case, I think the background that's helpful is that tax law, New York State tax law 685G, says that any person who's required to collect, truthfully account for, and pay taxes, and who willfully fails to collect taxes and pay the taxes, can be liable for a penalty equal to the sum of the total amount of evaded of paying taxes, or not collected or not accounted for, and the interest that's accrued. So it's the person responsible can be held personally liable. That's tax law 685G. And the facts of this case are that there's a company, a construction company called Nastasi and Associates, where the people that owned it was a family company. It was first Frank Nastasi and then later Anthony Nastasi. And one of the employees of Nastasi and Associates was Christopher Black, who's the respondent in this particular case, the petitioner respondent in this case. The person who's being dinged by the tax agency. And he was an employee, and in 1994, he left Nastasi and Associates, and he opened up his own firm called the New England Construction Company, NECC, which he and his brother opened, and they are members of a minority racial group. And he opened this company so that it could get minority owned. It could be what's called a minority owned business enterprise, an MBE, for which there are special contracts that can go to minority owned businesses. So Christopher Black became the 51% owner of this new company, NECC, and Nastasi, the Nastasi family, became the 49% owner. And over the course of the time that the NECC was there, he was the principal shareholder and the president of the company. And he did work and he invested money, but really he invested probably approximately $200,000 of his own money in the company. But the Nastasis invested probably $6 million in that company. He's the person, though, Christopher Black is the person who signed checks, who signed all the forms that he'd be the person responsible for paying taxes. And those taxes were not properly paid. Eventually, when there was Nastasi asked him to sign some form with regard to a union dispute, Christopher Black refused and Nastasi got rid of him, basically taking over the company. But at that point, or after that point, the New York State Department of Taxation and Finance decided to pursue Christopher Black for his failure to pay the required taxes due and owing from this time when he was the president of NECC. So did the federal government. Now, when the federal government pursued Christopher Black, he said to them, listen, it was really a sham. It was a shell. I was really kind of doing stuff for Nastasi and getting the business contracts that they couldn't get because we were a minority-owned business. But I really wasn't in control. I wasn't the person responsible. That was Nastasi. And the IRS agreed with that proposition put forward by Christopher Black. But the New York State Department of Taxation and Finance did not agree. So it went to an ALJ, went to an administrative law judge with respect to his tax issue, and they found that he was a person responsible under tax law 685G. And so they assessed him penalties of more than $100,000. He appealed to the tax tribunal. They agreed with the ALJ, with the administrative law judge. They said that it was willful. They applied a multi-factor test as required, and they charged him the penalty. He then appeals to he files an Article 78 to the appellate division. They agree, and it goes to the Court of Appeals. And here, they agree with the tax tribunal, with the ALJ, and with the appellate division. They say that they did apply the proper multi-factor test, which is, did the individual, was he an officer or member of the board? Did he own shares and possess a stake in the company? Was he active in day-to-day management? Did he have the ability to hire and fire employees? Did he make decisions about whether and whether to pay bills and taxes and in what order to do that. Did he exercise control over bank accounts? And did he have check signing authority? They go through the entire multi-factor test. They say it's a totality of the circumstances test. And everyone applied the right test and came up with an answer. He is a person responsible. And importantly, the holding here is it doesn't matter that the IRS found he wasn't a person responsible for their rules. The tax tribunal is not required to apply to defer, to give deference to the IRS's determination. They're allowed to do their own factual determination, and here they did so. So it affirms their holding, and that's the case of Christopher Black versus New York State Tax Appeals Tribunal. Have a good day. If you like what you just saw and want to see more just like it, please hit like or subscribe to let me know.